So, Christina, so we mostly talked about the international study permits, and you mentioned the travel, the visitor visa, everything. Um, can you spend a little bit more time about the postgraduate work permits, the implications, and basically, if I were a student, I would be thinking, although the government of Canada have made all these changes or updates or encouraging policies, I'm still unclear what should I do? Like, do I have any options, right? Are these do I the only option for me is it just wait until some good news come out from Canada, and would I still be getting the 2 year or 3 year work permit that I was supposed to get when I started school? So can you share more details on that, and where do you think, what do you think where do you think this is going?
So I mean, those are all fair questions, I mean, for students to be asking, because ultimately, as I said before, I mean, students make the decision to study in Canada because, it's a pathway to permanent residency, and they're also paying international student fees. So it's a valid question to ask. As I said before, I mean, the government is very aware of how important students are. The Canadian government is very aware of how important students are. And I mean, when you're looking at the trends for, permanent residency and stuff like that, even the point system, students are exactly who they're targeting. They're targeting people under the age of basically, I would say, 35, even 45 to that extent. I mean, you lose points, but essentially it's people who are highly educated at the working age that can contribute to the Canadian economy. So, I mean, I don't think the government has lost sight of that. And I think students are always going to be a priority for Canada. So that's something, I can't speak for the government. I'm not the government's representative, but the reality is Canada relies on immigration. So I don't think we're ever going to close the border. And we're very fortunate in the sense of, our partners down to our neighbors to the south, their policies are very different than ours. Especially with whenever different administrations come into play, they're very restrictive. In Canada, we're not like that. Doesn't matter which of the political parties are in power in Canada, they all support immigration. So that's something that I think everyone should know about moving forward. Canada has temporarily closed borders, but it's not closed for business. It's not closed for immigration. So that's the number one thing I think everyone needs to understand. And these policies that the government has put in place specifically for students, I think is a key indication that it's not closed for business, because they're making a lot of allowances to the sense of, before remote learning wasn't an option. Online classes weren't an option. There had to be physical presence on the campuses. Otherwise, you weren't eligible for the postgraduate work permit. That's not the case now. So for postgraduate work permits right now, essentially, as long as you continue to be registered on a full-time basis, so you're considered a full-time student, you're still okay, provided that again, as I said before, 50%, so the time, and students right now aren't losing any time on their postgraduate. So if they're here, if they're abroad and they've applied for their study permit, if they're abroad and they can't travel because of whatever's happening, they can continue to use that time with distance learning or online learning towards qualifying for their postgraduate work permit. Okay, so that time is not lost. So that's something I think that's really important for students considering Canada as an option should understand. So even if, let's say, a year from now, we're in the same place or a modified version of it, again, the Canadian government will, I'm confident, make allowances to count that time towards the postgraduate work permit. So as it stands right now, provided that you've either, I'll repeat it, I feel like a broken record, but I think it's worth saying again, provided you have submitted the study permit, you have a study permit approval, or you actually have the study permit in hand, and you're studying at a Canadian institution on a full-time basis, you can do 50% of your studies abroad or distance learning. And then the other 50% would have to be done in Canada. And that's the policy as of today's date, and that's the policy that will be in place until April of 2021. So, you know, that's something to consider. And then come April 2021, or I'm sure even before that, I'm sure the government will update things. So there's a recognition that, hey guys, I know you can't be here, but we still want you.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll do what we need to make sure that ultimately you'll be coming back to Canada and you know, making decisions as to whether you want to stay here on a permanent basis.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a fantastic news that the people, the students holding the study permit or approval will be able to come here. So instead of studying at home, because I know a lot of students, even from our own community, they, yeah, sure, you know, if you study at home, even if you come here, you might still be, you know, studying online. But
Mhm.
it's not just like the study, the classes you're taking that matters. It's also the cultural experience that you, and you know, I know staying home when you're in Canada, you're still staying home. You're not really going outside or anything,
Yeah.
but still, it's you know, it's part of the cultural experience. You know, living here, you know, being a temporary resident, you know, and eventually being a Canadian. So that's, I think a lot of people will find this very, very exciting, very cheerful. So
Mhm.
we're happy that the government has already has announced this, and hopefully, and as you said, you know, it looks like this is going on a very positive train. So they may have, you know, before the end of the year, they may have some other good news. Who knows, right? So this is good. You know, we talked about immigration. Sorry, we talked about the study permit. We talked about the postgraduate work permit. Um, I know some people. I think that, you know, this is gonna be a really quick question,
Mhm.
but maybe you can shed some light on this. I know some people are still applying to the visitor visa, right?
Mhm.
But again, visitor visa, you know, most cases they're not really for essential reasons, right? And I heard a saying that the majority of the visitor visa application in the past few weeks have been rejected, just because, is it because of the travel ban? Is it true? Do people still want to apply to visitor visa, or they just want to hold up for a little while because, you know, it's not really for essential reasons. You can't really come here to visit. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the visitor visas are typically, right now, the only ones that are given priority are the ones that will be approved, or essentially those for people that fit under the travel exemptions. So
Hmm.
if it's family members, you know, if they meet the definition of immediate family members or extended family members, or if they're workers trying to come back to Canada, those are essentially the people they're giving priority to, because what the government is saying is, this is a global issue.
Hmm.
We all have to kind of deal with it individually. And then, you know, we understand that families being together during this difficult time is very important.
Hmm.
So if you have a family member here in Canada on a study permit, on a work permit, and you want to come in and stay with them, then those are the people they're giving priority to, and those are being submitted and being sent off to special requests. But, you know, tourism, you know, business visits, that kind of stuff, that's not an option right now. So that right now is essentially, you know, on pause until the travel ban is lifted.
Hmm. So that, but the, let's say the decline of the visitor visa application won't have an impact or negative impact on their future study permit application, right?
It shouldn't, specifically if, I mean, if the reason for the refusal is essentially, you know, you don't fit under the travel exemption, that
Right.
doesn't negatively factor into their immigration history. But if the application was refused because they don't think they're a genuine visitor, there's other underlying
Right, right.
complications,
Yeah.
then obviously that will form part of it. But if the refusal is simply, no, you don't fit under the travel exemption, that is, you know, that's not the person's fault. It's not their immigration history. It's not credibility issues on their fault. It's just simply they don't fit under the strict requirements that are in place right now.
Okay. Okay. Yep. That makes sense. That actually makes great sense, and you know, probably will comfort a lot of people, because, you know, again, you know, it's a very special time right now, so you can't, it's okay that you got refused by the visa application, because for your own safety, that you don't want to travel just to have fun. You can't really have any fun.
Yeah.
So
No, that's what it is. It's not, we can't come here for optional or discretionary purposes, unfortunately, right? Canada it's only if it's absolutely necessary and to be with your family members. That's
exactly,
the rule right now.
exactly. You mentioned the family members. I think, so if the family members have, I know they used to have a 10-year visitor visa or something. Like even my parents, they still have that. So so basically they still qualify for this category. If for example, if we need help or if they want to visit us right now, they can still come here because they are, and let's say a family member of a PR or Canadian citizen, so they
Yeah.
still qualify.
Yes, exactly. So provided they fall into the definition of immediate family member or extended family members, you have all the evidence in place and that they're coming to Canada for longer than 15 days, then yes, they can come in and visit. And the idea is, the recognition of family reunification. And then on last week, they also introduced a new initiative for compassionate reasons. So if you have to come to Canada, if someone's passing away or someone's critically ill and you want to come and say goodbye to them, then you can ask public health for special permission to come to Canada. But everything has to be approved, obviously, before you arrive in Canada, because what you have to remember in a lot of these cases are, even if you have a visitor visa in your passport and you show up at the airport, the airline officials are mandated to ask why you're coming to Canada and actually figure out if you fall under one of the travel ban exemptions. So that's your first gatekeeper, and then if the airline has deemed it appropriate, then the border official has to make that final determination. So having that visa in your passport isn't necessarily mean it's a green light to come to Canada. You still have to fall under one of your exemptions. But if a parent already has a visa in their passport and they want to come and visit their child in Canada, who's either a Canadian or permanent resident or even on a study permit, provided you can show that it's not I'm not here to come and see the CN Tower, but I'm here to spend time with my with my family members, and support them during these difficult times, then the government is processing those applications positively. So.
Okay. Just a quick reminder again, if for the guys who are listening, please, if you have a question, just send in the chat box, and then we'll basically ask those questions. I know I got some questions from our own community, and I'll probably just spend a couple of minutes asking, hoping Christina could help us answer those questions. And before we, I think it's already 35 minutes past, since we started, so we'll probably just wrap up in a few minutes.